Hello, here Mariana Salas, Investica Crypto on Instagram. Here in Investing CS Vida, we also talk about the experiences and also about businesses. So today we have the guest, Ashley Schorr, one of our biggest collaborators and partners in this community of CS Vida. She explains more about what is to invest in your own business, what is to invest in these new, you know, ideas that you can come up, and the importance of believing in yourself and why it's important just to start. So here we leave the podcast. If you find value in this content, we'll be very excited and happy that you can subscribe or give us a like. Then we'll really appreciate it. Here we go. Yep. Okay, awesome. So welcome to Investing CS Vida. Here we have Ashley Shore and my name Mariana. I'm the host for this podcast, and we're just starting a conversation of what is investing. CS Vida is really coming to how holistically we work together to understand what is important in life. We Some of us know some little things about science, finance, some other stuff. So we really want to go more in like the education part of like having a conversation with normal people like us and understanding what is investing and how we can get started. So Ash, can you tell us a little more about yourself and what do you do and how do you start in this path of investing?
Yeah, so I'm an educator, an environmental educator, and I work a lot with kids. Definitely didn't go to school or learn much about business at all in school or anything like that. But when I was in college, I started using the app, um, not Robinhood. What's the other one?
um Acorn.
Acorns, and I was doing like the roundup. So it'd be like you buy something for like 12.86, and they put 14 cents into your investment account. And I just started doing that just to see, like, just to check it out. And I didn't accumulate much. Broke college student, but it was just a good learning experience to see, like, it doesn't take much, and you don't really, in something like that, like rounding up, you don't really notice the money disappearing and going into your account. So that was like my first experience with it, probably in 2015. And then I actually started building a tiny house after I graduated. Not myself, but I hired someone, and so every extra dollar I had was going into purchasing that. So I feel like I kind of stepped away a little bit, and I I didn't really spend too much time thinking about investing or um, I think I like deactivated my account. And that tiny house ended up being a good investment as well. But because of that, I kind of stepped away. And then I think around, I don't know, 2018, I got like a corporate job just to help sort of buy that tiny house. And I got my first like 401k and opened a Roth IRA. So I started like kind of getting into the more like investing for the long term. I opened a new like Robinhood account, and then yeah, I think what was it, like 20 end of 2019 maybe, or 2020, started learning more about crypto, and sort of everything changed from there. So yeah.
So you were talking about, because investing could be in many ways, right? So we're having other guests that are talking about what is investing ourselves. So right now I want to go back to the tiny house because I think you, compared to many college students, had that idea of like, hey, I want to get a tiny house. Why you want to have a tiny house at that time?
So at that time, I was very because I didn't understand it. I was very like anti business. I just had this mindset like I'm not a business minded person, anti like system. So my idea was just to get a tiny house, just to to live off grid and not participate in this horrible capitalist society. And that would be my road to freedom. Was just buying a piece of land somewhere and parking on it, and just living a minimalist lifestyle, and in that way not needing as much money. That was sort of my thought process, because I was like, education, I'm never going to make a huge salary from this. So I just figured if I can just minimize my needs instead, then I can live comfortably, instead of thinking like, how can I scale up my own assets? So that was just the mindset at that time. So that was why I initially was like, I'm going to stick it to the man, build a tiny house, live off the grid, and like, I don't need, money or whatever. That was kind of the original reasoning.
So what happened? Like after you had all those thoughts, when you actually built it, went through all the process, which is kind of interesting story that you can also tell everyone. But what happened afterwards? Like, anything change your mind, or what is your new view of like the world with a tiny house? What do you need to do? What, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people want to build a tiny house or have that mindset, but like what had changed, and like what are you doing now with the tiny house? Is, are you still have it? Are you still like working with it? How do you do that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I lived in it for 2 years while going to school. So it's a tiny house on wheels. Moved it down to Florida, West Palm Beach, Holler. Um, but lived there for 2 years while going to FAU, getting my master's in environmental education, and I rented somebody's yard from them. So, but like right off the bat, first of all, if anyone's considering building a tiny house on wheels, don't do it unless you already have locked in somewhere to put it. So this is part of the problem. In most places, you can't just take a tiny house on wheels, buy a property, and just put it there, because obviously you have zoning laws. Which, being an ignorant 23-year-old, I was sort of like, I'll figure it out eventually. Like, let me like spend all this money on this thing first, and then figure out where to actually make it useful or live in it. Um, but I found somebody that used to be my program, and they were like, "Yeah, we just got this house, and the prior owners had installed RV hookups, and lived in their RV sort of while renovating the house to sell it. So it just worked out perfectly. It was very centrally located, like in town. It's I think it's mostly like a God thing. Like I lucked out for sure. I had it made. I had a great location. It was a huge fenced in yard. It was nice for the dogs. Um, but then I still kept looking into like, what can we do, like buy a property or buy a house where we can put that in the back as an ADU, something along those lines. But just as the time went on, it was like, you just realize like how much red tape there is. So then I was going to be moving here to San Diego, so we got everything ready to move it, and there's a tiny home community here. It used to be basically like an RV park, a campground sort of thing up here in Mount Laguna. It's about 60 miles outside of San Diego, and we stayed there last summer of 2020 just to check it out and see, would this be a place I would want to put my tiny house. And so we moved it over here. Not really sure yet, but knowing there could be a possibility of renting it out on Airbnb, basically, and just paying sort of an extra fee to the owners to be able to operate that business. So all of that was unsure whether we wanted to live in it or rent it out. But then this idea of like, we could rent out on Airbnb, and hearing from other community members who were renting their tiny homes out, and it was it stays pretty busy up there as long as you manage it properly. So we ended up doing some improvements to it, built a deck, built a fenced in yard for it. That's a nice thing about tiny house block. We've had a decent amount of freedom to like make our lot our own, and mostly like semi-permanent, like things that we could roll up and take out if we wanted to move it somewhere else. But yeah, so we got it up and going, and I think our first booking was like the end of September 2021, and ever since then, it's been definitely paying the bills and even cash flowing for us. So it's interesting because it just turned into that investment that I put into it back in the day um, is sort of being paid back to me now, which is nice.
It's nice because you started that when you were 23 and you had that mindset, right? Like somehow you will live there, save some money. Because at the end, we all trying to save some money or make extra cash aside, whatever profession we have. And I believe that that tiny house was just an opportunity to say, this is my real estate that I can move from Florida to California
Yeah.
and basically having cash flowing, having some investment back because you invested of course in repairs and like maintenance and all that, and then after that basically just running for you, like um so like investments are important in many ways. I wonder, do you regret doing a tiny house? Do you think it has been an important investment in your life, or what is your take in investments in, like, in this case, like kind of real estate? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely don't regret it at all. The only thing I regret about it is paying cash. That was like the dumbest thing I could have ever done. Now, knowing what I know, and obviously knowing what I know now about crypto as well, and having gotten into that, definitely if I could go back, I would have taken a personal loan to buy it, um, because that cash would have been way better spent invested in either the stock market or cryptocurrency at the time. Um, but other than that, I'm super pleased with it. You know, we built it with a good amount of reclaimed materials, some of which were aspects of the house that should not have been made with reclaimed materials. So that's been a learning experience. We've had to redo a few aspects and definitely improve a couple. That was one way that we saved money in the build process. But also, I think corners were sort of cut, and that's just live and learn. Like I probably, if I could go back, I would be more diligent about the details. What are we using reclaimed materials for, and overseeing that a little bit more directly. Some of the reclaimed materials that the builder used turned out beautiful. There's not a lot of tiny houses that have like the wood. It's like tin, and then there's also wood on the exterior finish, which I think gives it a really beautiful touch. But then some of like even the the interior stuff that ended up being reclaimed. Like around the maybe like the window frames. That tiny houses are notorious for getting like water damage, just not being as easy to seal as like normal housing. So those are a couple things I would do differently, but I definitely wouldn't change it. If I do it again, I would definitely do it a little bit different. Not cut corners in certain ways because that's just becoming more expensive to redo it now. But
And maybe we can like do another video of like what would you do different, about
yeah,
like putting another Airbnb like type of tiny house, because right now, based on Netflix, and all those shows that out there, people really want to go check it out. What is to live in a tiny house, like glamping, all that. So definitely be a cool, to learn more from like what would you do different. But my other question for you is, so you did all these real estate investments, and then you said like, okay, I could have done it differently. Can you tell us more about this new business? Because investing is also about this new, like investing in my business. So what has been the experience of having Airbnb at such a young age, and like just not knowing anything and go out there and put, ourselves basically there? And what have you learned the most, and what you think like we can improve? For sure we're gonna share the link so you guys can check it out on the Airbnb. And if you are near California, we're happy to host you anytime. And if you want any extra um advice, or some counsel or whatever for how to start, or even the experience of a tiny house, I think we're gonna put the links below so you guys know. But yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about what has what is your experience with Airbnb as a young business owner, and what do you what do you think?
yeah. I think it's I wouldn't necessarily classify it as like a real estate investment because I still don't own any real estate, that's sort of the beauty of the business I'm operating right now is I gained access to Southern California property, which is extremely, extremely expensive and inaccessible to a brand new business with no, existing money to invest basically. So gaining access to that just by paying monthly to rent a spot um, is actually like a super valuable aspect of the business. Um, Obviously, we're not gaining any equity in any property with this particular business, but it's sort of like a land hack. Like I didn't have to buy any land. The landowner is still benefiting because I'm renting space from them, and we're benefiting because we're able to operate our business there. Um, so I think that's been a big like learning experience. Is like there's different types of short-term rentals you can operate. Some of which will give you access to equity in property and real estate, and we're definitely exploring options in that right now as well, and which is seems to be a very lucrative time to get into that business as well. I think in part because of COVID, a lot of people actually like started staying more in short-term rentals, like private Airbnbs, Verbos, instead of hotels, just because it's more private and it feels, like you're not around as many people. And I think that's part of the reason why it did become such like a booming business right now. So, and then the other type is what I'm doing, which is sort of working with a landowner to basically be able to operate an Airbnb on that. And that's something that we're also looking at getting more into right now with things like glamping, geodomes, maybe potentially like other tiny houses in the future. Airstreams, just different unique experiences for people, where you don't necessarily need to like own a house to be able to operate something like that. So that's sort of just from this one experience, I feel like I have more direction in terms of those different types of opportunities that I want to keep growing and getting into.
Okay, so unique experiences definitely is what we're all looking for right now. No longer that just like concrete apartments, like for that we already have an apartment like that, but go somewhere else that's different or shows me that connection with nature or like with the people, with the community. So I think it's really cool to see how this project is going to expand because it's just the beginning, right? So I just want to like before we wrap up, like from your experience of the tiny house, it has been investment of time, of money, of many headaches and like also good times. um do you think, would you advise people like to invest in something, like do you think it's investing in yourself and businesses or crypto or stocks or whatever you think, would you advise people why invest in versus just saving your money, leaving your cash right there? So I don't know, what do you take on that?
Yeah, I mean, personally, from what we've been learning, I think investing in things, even beyond just like the stock market or, you know, traditional finance, I guess, one reason would be sort of for us like a hedge against inflation, as the dollar is getting driven into the ground. We If we start getting access to real estate, that's a great hedge. Crypto is a great hedge. So I think just at the end, as typically they say, is just diversifying. And I think running an Airbnb is not passive income. It requires a lot of work. It requires putting systems in place, especially if you're going to expand to multiple properties, which is what we've been learning and trying to put into place right now. But it can be very lucrative and it can be something fun. I truly enjoy doing it. I enjoy giving people those experiences. Um, Most of the time when people find out that I have a tiny house and that I lived in a tiny house for 2 years in Florida and it didn't get wiped away by Hurricane Dorian, pivot. But People are typically very like surprised. Like it's not a very common thing, but it's an experience that for some reason people desire. They always say like a lot of times people will say like, "Oh, I'd love to like just try that. I wouldn't want to live in a tiny house long term, but we've had people that they're considering buying a tiny house and they want to try it out. So that's a great opportunity for them to do that. Or it's like they know that they would never be able to live that minimalist lifestyle, but they would love to just try it for a weekend and just just how does it feel? And, it's sort of a unique thing that I think I enjoy giving people that experience, even just in this aspect. So I think expanding to other unique experiences, it's super fun for me. And I'm really excited to like see what's to come. So if that's not your thing, then it could be that short-term rentals might not be a really good experience for you, but there could be another type of, like Turo, for example. We operate a Turo business, and that's just like our cars that we rent out. But some people love cars, and they use Turo as an opportunity to gain access and have 8 luxury cars that they can just drive whenever they want and then rent out to pay the bills. So that could be someone else might be super passionate about that more than doing like an Airbnb. So I think just find something that you enjoy and that you'll be driven to wake up every day to do, not just for the money, but because you really like it. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Absolutely. One thing about the tour is like we've been getting all the camping gear,
Oh,
every
yeah.
the beach gear paid by Turo because people not just rent the car but also like the add-ons, the accessories because they're in California, they wanna go camping, they wanna go to the beach, they wanna go skiing, snowboarding. So just those literally being buying them and like just paying by the renters, and it's just being like so fun because is another way that we're also investing ourselves, right? Getting all this stuff that we also want to use, also put it to the community, like people can use it. So it's not just like in the storage in all the time. So more people can enjoy it. And like also that mindset of like, oh, because I'm going camping, I have to buy more things. No, now people also can rent it from our own Turo cars, and then basically just so it's just there's many ways. I think what we have learned so far is that the opportunities to make money, to learn more, to expand is up to you. At the end you got to start. So our channel basically Invest in CSB is about that. It's encourage you to find that opportunity, find that idea that you want to do, and just start. And then eventually you will know if you regret it or not, but by doing is how you learn. So I'm really happy to be in this project with Ash. She's been one of my best friends and like business partners in many many years of these crazy ideas. I think people think we're crazy for sure. We're like, hey, what are you guys doing this time, or what is this new project? But I think this is what is life about, right? Like for us it's more, hey, let's we have this new idea, let's try it. We have failed many times, we gotta say, but we have learned so much that with all the experiences we have come to like new projects that are finally giving the cash flow, the money to like keep expanding to new projects. So
And the relationships that lead to new things. At the end of the day, that's investing in yourself. That's what we're doing. So it's been awesome.
it has been amazing. So I'm excited to keep talking, having this conversation. Today we talk more about tiny house and investing in something that you like at the end. And um, in the future we'll have more conversations, and I'm very grateful for you that you have joined me today helping me with this project. I think it's just the starting, but I think it's just we want to share what has been our experiences, the goods and bads, and maybe advise some people doing some stuff that like just don't get into that, or because we have tried a lot. So and we're still learning, so we're pretty young. So I'm really happy. Thank you for being here. And anything that you would like to say to finish?
Yeah, I think just at the end of the day, you just have to, if you think you have an idea, a business idea, a project, first of all the resources are out there to learn whatever you need. YouTube, we live in like the easiest time to learn literally anything. We have access to the internet. Well, not everyone does, but if you're watching this video, you probably do. So you can learn anything you need to learn to do anything you want to do. And secondly, just start, just try. If you don't, you might have an idea for your whole life and just think, oh, I would love to try that. But if you don't give it a shot and just say, hey, I'm going to spend couple hours a week just seeing if I can do anything with this, you never know what might happen. We've been surprised ourselves, and I think anyone could surprise themselves with what they could accomplish if they just gave something a shot. Even if you don't think you're an entrepreneur, you have that mindset. It's also a learned skill, just like anything. So if that's something that you want to try, is starting a business or starting to learn about investing, something that you don't know anything about, um, you'll never know unless you just give it a shot. So go for it.
All right. If you guys found some valuable content here, and please subscribe to our channel. It's a new project, so we're happy to share with you, and then we will like your support if you. Thank you.